Barbara Sackett's a lot of different people. She's a mother, have 8 kids, and very devoted family. A lot of grandkids and great-grandkids now. She's a volunteer with a lot of different projects. Most of them have started because of my interest in developmental disabilities. I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and from that I went back and got my master's and went to work in that field as opposed to education, which I was once. Teacher also, but when I got my master's, then I became the first professional for the developmental disabilities population in the state, if you will, with Benton County. It was called a services coordinator position, and we developed that. So I had my volunteer side with the ARC of Benton County and the ARC of Oregon, and I was also president of the ARC of the United States, which gave me a lot of contacts nationwide too. So I guess I'm a lot of people. I'm a native Oregonian. My great-great-great-grandmother is in the rotunda of the Capitol. She is Eliza Spaulding. She was one of the first white women. She came with the Whitmans to the Oregon country, and her daughter was the first white woman to grow up and become an adult on this side of the Rocky Mountains. And so when I was 3, the DAR gave a plaque to her, and I got to dedicate that. I was born and raised in Salem, and I went to school in Salem, but Salem is just, I don't know, there's a mentality there that is just different than Corvallis. Well, I grew up in the country, on a farm, small farm. Went to a 3-room school. We actually had a well with a cup for our drinking water. 1 cup for every student. We all survived. We also had the outhouse, you know. Yeah, so it was definitely out in the country. But I think I went into education because I had some teachers I really didn't like, and I thought I could do a better job than they, you know. And then, but it wasn't until I had Leanne that I realized that there is something else out there that I have to be doing. I think all people should be accepted for who they are. Yeah, we all have differences, we all have warts, but we should all be accepted. Certainly, I'm not going to put her in an institution. I mean, that was not. So you fight. Right. What do we need? We need to belong in the schools. And what do we do to get that? We need this, we need this, we need this. Yeah, and you do fight. And there really was nothing for my daughter at that time. The institution or keep her home. And what we actually had was a private school. Went to the church, you know, and the ARC ran a school because our kids were not allowed in the public school system at that time. And so I was already working actively, advocating that they be allowed in school. And so it made sense to go back and get my master's. But at the same time, we were also at the legislature lobbying to get permission for our kids to go to school. And we were successful in 1969. And so Corvallis School District was ready. It was permissive. They didn't have to do it. But as soon as the law said they could do it, they did step up to the plate. And that was great. That was great. And you know, for some reason, some of those other parents seemed to think that I knew what I was doing and followed, you know. If Barbara says it's okay, let's do it. Yeah. And yeah, that was kind of a heavy responsibility though, realizing that kind of got this entourage that believed that I can lead them. Because there were so many things we needed. So many things. I mean, just you get started with school, but what are you going to do when you're an adult? And so we were always at the legislature lobbying for more services. At the same time, my professional life was also pushing me in that direction. And then I left Benton County and went to work for the state, again in the Department of Mental Health, the Developmental Disabilities section. and was head of the case management program for the state. And then I was head of the residential program for the state. And yeah, so a lot of different roles at the state level and starting a lot of new programs too. It was fun. It was a great experience. It was all new and growing and getting people out of the institutions and not putting them in there in the first place and eventually closing the institutions. But getting our kids into school was important. They belonged. And seeing my daughter graduate with a cap and gown from Crescent Valley was great. She was the second one to graduate Crescent Valley High with a disability of that level. I can remember the first time I testified before a legislative committee. I was just scared to death, but did it because it was right. Had to get our message across. Yeah, I can remember going in and when I was working as a professional at the state level, but it was a bill that Senator Cliff Drow was on the committee, and I came in as a professional from the division testifying in favor of it, and I was the first one up, and Cliff asked, he says, "Is this a good bill, Barbara?" And I said, "Yes, it is." Moved to pass. The rest of the people who were there, who were going to testify, said, "What just happened?" And I said, "Trust." Left. That was great. It would be nice if we were so assimilated that we weren't needed. Yeah. That it would just be the norm, and you wouldn't need someone advocating for persons with developmental disabilities. I don't think that's going to happen ever, but we're a whole lot closer than we used to be. Yeah, when Leanne was born, you would never see someone on TV who was acting and who happened to have a developmental disability. It just wouldn't happen. Yeah, yeah. We had a fire in the house, and Leanne was successful in phoning the fire department and saving the house. And yet a neighbor suggested that perhaps she should be in an institution where she would be safer. Yeah. And I suggested, no, I don't think so. She's in her own apartment, but there is 24-hour supervision. And her boyfriend is living with her now, and they are having an absolutely delightful time. And I am so glad that he is here because he is so supportive of her. And she's going to have a hard time when I'm gone, and he's going to be there for her. So, yeah. Yeah, somehow I thought I'd outlive her, but I'm not going to. So, because the doctor said she would die. She's 55. What did they know? The spin-off from all of that is like, when I retired, I got a phone call from Linda Wagner, twisting my arm. Special transportation. Well, the county is responsible for special transportation. They have an advisory committee. So I have been on that for about 11 years and chair it and have chaired it for several years. And it's developmental disabled people need transportation, so it's a logical step to take a look at transportation. Same thing happened with Corvallis Neighborhood Housing, which is now Willamette Neighborhood Housing. Barbara Ross twisted my arm. Come on the board, And again, just a fantastic organization. I'm so pleased to be and give time to that organization. Just such good people too, and they're so committed. They are so committed to what they are doing. And again, a logical place for someone who's been advocating for persons who need something, and certainly the homeless and people in low income. It's tough living in Corvallis. I came on the board about the time that Camas Commons was completed, and I was so impressed because way back when I was used to what was out on Tunison that was known as low-cost housing. It was just a terrible program, and all kinds of problems with the police, and just, so the Camas Commons, completely changed my viewpoint on what low-cost housing is and should be. Just a marvelous place. In fact, I have a great-grandson who lives there. And so that was my introduction. And I thought, wow, this is great. Jim Moorfield, the executive director, I had already known and worked with when he was at Sunflower House, you know, many years before. And so I already respected him and as an ED for that program. And of course, Barbara Ross was very good at twisting arms. Very good. That's one of her skills. And so it was on a learning curve then on everything that they were doing. And what they've accomplished in South Corvallis, I think, you know, the neighborhood, the feeling that we can make a neighborhood improve, a whole neighborhood improve, and care about what they're doing that. They're doing that. And I think that's just great, because South Corvallis sometimes gets a bad rep. And they're improving it. You know, people who volunteer and give their time are just nice people. So that you've already, you know, you're starting ahead with just nice people. And if it's something that you care about, it makes you feel good. That you are making a little bit of difference. You know, and I don't have a lot of money. And like, you know, I make the food, right, for those. That's an in-kind donation. It saves the organization money. I have fun doing it. I can count it off on my income tax. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. So, yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I think it's giving back and also paying forward. You know, and right now, you know, I need some help from people. And people are so willing to help me. And I think it's because I've got a, you know, few chips out there. And I'm kind of collecting on some of them. And it's just great, just great.